Welcome back to another episode of Pause the Punch. I'm here with my co-hosts,
Jerry.
Troy.
myself, Sibu. We've got quite a juicy topic today, uniquely contemporary, very much current, and the conversation is about how coronavirus has impacted the boxing industry in positive and negative ways.
Yeah.
I'll start off with saying that we've been fortunate, quite strangely and surprisingly, that it's pushed a lot of fights that might otherwise not have been made. But on the negative, on the flip side, there's also been fights which have been cancelled and postponed and pushed back. And yeah, so I'll let you start, Jerry, with the positives in terms of the fights which have been made, which may not have been made previously.
Yeah, I think as boxing fans, we're not as fortunate as sort of those that enjoy football, because football normally you have a schedule of all the people who are playing in the league.
Yeah.
So as I said, within boxing we have a lot of fights that we want to happen, but majority of the time they don't, because
Absolutely.
you have two different fighters who are from
Yeah.
two different camps.
Yep.
Sorting out networks, sorting out which platform they're going to fight on
Yep.
becomes the issue.
Yep.
But I think two big fights which are made for me that I'm really excited about. One is Garcia Campbell. I mean,
100%.
Yeah.
Garcia is a young, hungry lion. He hasn't fought anyone really of note, but who we know is a big puncher. Instagram, we see all these flurries of punches. I know he doesn't relate in the ring, but we know he has the potential to be a good fighter.
Yeah.
Versus a seasoned Luke Campbell.
Yep.
Like Luke Campbell, who put up a good fight twice against Linares,
Yep.
who's fought also Lomachenko.
Did decent. He was
Did very
respectable.
well.
Yeah,
fight,
I think he won a few rounds. It wasn't
Yeah.
a total whitewash. He won a few rounds. So definitely I give him that. But those are two fights that I think we are happy about, because many a times as boxing fans we were let down because we don't get to see the fights we want due to politics.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and in that respect, would you say that coronavirus has kind of accelerated someone like Garcia's career in terms of maybe he would have had a few more gimme fights, but now they're actually saying, you know what, we need to put on a real event, and they're giving us Campbell.
I think what you're saying is true. So the main thing about this corona for me is that there's a limited a number of fighters that can fight on a show now. So what you've got is you've got promoters who are inundated with the number of fighters they have,
Yep.
and now they need to get people onto the card.
Yep.
So they're only really putting people in eye-catching 50-50 fights. If not, there's no space for you.
Yeah.
So I think yes,
Yeah.
that is true. We're able to see those fights now, which we might not have seen before, or we may have seen later on in time.
100% agree with you. I think promoters previously, like you say, because the state of play with boxing, they got away with giving away a lot of gimme fights that fans didn't necessarily that fans didn't necessarily want to see, but because it's the state of play, that's what we'll give. We'll take what we're given. Whereas now, as you say, they actually need to put on real eye-catching events, so they are pushing fighters to actually take 50-50s.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Kind of on that point, Trey, what are the fights which have stood out for you that have been made in Corona times that you're excited by?
Yeah. First of all, I say Spence versus Garcia.
That's
Tasty
gonna be a
fight.
mad fight, you
Tasty
know.
fight.
I think Rona's
That's a mad
definitely
one.
benefited for that.
Yeah,
That's
thank you, Rona.
exactly.
Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, because before that, obviously Spencer was in an unfortunate car accident.
And he could have had
He
three
could have
fights.
had 3 tune-ups,
Three tune-ups against
and
PE teachers.
exactly.
Not
Yeah.
to go off tangent, but I think that one, because Spence is one of the best fighters, and Garcia also. But the fact that he's come off an injury, we don't know what he's got left.
And that's the
That's the
beauty.
main
That's it.
thing.
I
That's the beauty
think
of it.
that's
Yeah.
the excitement of it, and I think I
And I
definitely
feel like if it wasn't for Rona,
Yeah.
there's no way that's happening.
Yeah.
Like I feel like he would have took like 2 tune-ups,
okay.
and then maybe
That's
maybe
true.
part of
Yeah.
Like warm-up
2021.
fights,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
he would have took another one. I'll say is Tank Santa Cruz.
Ooh.
That's a big fight.
I love Tank, you know.
I didn't see this happening at all.
David
It,
Knight.
it came out. It came out of nowhere. The fight.
Yeah.
I just thought Tank might have a couple tune-ups and then.
Yeah.
But
And
he's
get
just gone
to it.
straight in.
It's about time though, because as I said,
Yeah.
we know Tank is a big puncher. He's a good
Huge,
fighter.
huge.
But we're at that time now. We want to see the good fights. And Santa Cruz, we saw him fight at Frampton twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, France.
And
Excellent fights.
Yeah, excellent
Great
fights.
fights,
Do you know
great
what I mean?
fights.
So yeah, man.
I think in a lot of respects, actually, those two fights, interestingly, Campbell against
Garcia.
Garcia and Tank against Santa Cruz are actually a reflection of each other, because in Tank and Garcia, these are two quality fighters who are young and were waiting for the step up.
Those big names.
Without Rona, I think they might have been they might have been able to get away with having 2 or 3 fights,
Tune up.
Yeah,
you know.
definitely.
tune-ups,
Definitely.
and then they're having a big fight. But
Yeah.
in both of their cases, they're actually fighting really tough opponents who they're probably ready for, but they wouldn't have been forced to
Yeah.
fight if not for Rona. So I think, yeah, in that respect, yeah, thank you, Rona.
But you know what? As much as we're saying that, there's some downsides to it though.
Okay.
So for me, I feel like I said boxers. You got people like Eddie Hearn who've got loads of fighters.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I think those that are at the bottom of the chain,
Yep.
they're gonna struggle to get fights, and I think they're the people that are most affected. So
Yeah.
you have people that maybe are on 3-4K purses
Yeah.
that are gonna get no fights
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we only want to see
The
the top fights. So those people are going without. And I
Yeah.
think boxing, there's no fund or anything where you can go and have access to money. It's
Yeah.
like Corona's happened. There's no fights. There's no money coming in. They don't have the comfortability or sustainability of having a 9 to 5 where you have frequent money coming in. So that's hurting and damaging to our sport as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, I think that's a very good point to make. Unlike sports like football, where it's a lot more staggered in as far as you've got the Premier League, got the Championship, and then so on and so forth. So there's staggered money. I think the big boxers get all the money, and the
Yeah.
little boxers
Get basically
Yeah.
peanuts.
nothing really. Yeah,
that's
just
the truth. Yeah.
they get whatever's left, whatever gets brushed off the table.
Yeah.
Right. So
That's
yeah,
it.
no, that is a good point, and I think on that point as well, there have been downsides to the pandemic, other than it being a pandemic.
Yeah, that's it.
But for the sport of boxing, you have seen fights being either postponed or cancelled. For example, Wilder, Fury.
Oh man,
Yeah.
So we're not going to get to see that,
Yeah.
and that's
I'm
long.
not angry though. I'm not angry.
No, I think there's some
Yeah.
there's some benefits from that, and we touched
Yeah.
on that in a different video. So watch out for that video.
That's it.
But we've also seen fights be postponed,
Lyndon Arthur versus
Lyndon Arthur,
Anthony
Anthony
which
Joshua.
is something that we were all looking
Yeah, it
forward
was
to.
man.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely a good acid test.
And then there's other
Yeah.
factors with Corona and how it's impacted the sport.
Mhm.
For example, gate fees.
There's no gate. Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
no
no
gate.
gate.
It's mad, you know. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
For example, Dylan White versus Povetkin. There's no fans in it, but can you imagine a packed out O2, 20,000 fans?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Can you imagine? I'm
Yeah.
not saying he would have won, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
having people screaming your name, whether it's Povetkin
Yeah.
or Dylan, would have been big. So yeah,
Has that affected your watching experience? The no fans, or does it not?
That's a good
Yeah.
question.
it has. To a
That's a
certain
good
extent.
question. But I think, listen, this is crazy time. So like, and we've watched other sports as well, football as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. of
So you're
course.
kind of like expecting it. But yeah, I do think it has affected it. Eddie Hearn has kind of risen to the challenge,
Yeah.
in my opinion, or he did rise to the challenge with his garden shows.
Yeah.
I was impressed with those. I think the early BT shows, I wasn't impressed. I think it was just a bit weird, like it being in a studio and you've been able to hear like the leather hit someone's chin.
The layout wasn't the best.
The
Yeah.
layout
the
wasn't the
layout
best,
wasn't
but
the best.
listen, it's literally a global
Yeah, it's a
pandemic.
pandemic.
Yeah, so no one expected
yeah,
it, and you
exactly.
kind of just get better with time.
Mm.
And I think obviously the viewing experience is one thing, but also, as you say, it impacts like the lower fighters being
Yeah,
able to get a
significantly.
purse.
Mm.
And interestingly, we're getting bigger fights, but I think moving forward, if we don't get fans, there are bigger fights that we won't be able to get because without a gate, that's a significant impact on the fights.
But picking up on what you're saying, I think it's we definitely need to be grateful for the fact that
Definitely.
some of these fights that are happening now, for example, Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez,
Yeah.
Mhm.
a lot of them have agreed to take less purse because
Yeah.
Massive.
there's no fans.
No, yeah.
So the fans is what brings a lot of revenue. So
Yeah.
people or boxers are being forced into a situation where it's either you take this big fight
Yeah.
and take less money than you get before, or you don't fight.
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? Maybe it's something we need, not something we needed, but maybe this is shaking up the sport for the better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
possibly.
there's definitely been a lot of
Yeah.
positives. Interestingly and surprisingly, there have been a lot of positives.
Yeah.
And I think kind of on that point, it is something to really appreciate about boxing that we are in this pandemic,
Mm.
but they've given us that entertainment of
Yeah.
having good fights, which isn't something that we would have
Yeah,
necessarily
because it's not,
expected.
as you said, there's a lot more important issues happening currently.
Yeah,
So for us to still even be able to sit down and watch boxing,
And be
Yeah.
really
be
excited.
excited about the
Yeah,
fight,
To
is
some-
a
mega
good
fights as
thing.
well.
To
These
some,
days,
exactly, to
yeah.
some extent, we're actually more excited
Exactly.
now than we were. So yeah, so kind of, I think to wrap it up, I think obviously no one wants Corona.
No,
Oh.
we need Roller to go away, man.
Yeah, Rona, go
Definitely,
away, man.
definitely.
You've had your time here, but no,
Trust
but
me.
there have been some benefits for the boxing industry in the short term. I think in the long term, we do need fans back. One, for the atmosphere,
Mm.
but also two, from like kind of long term purses and boxers being able to get paid so that they can, you know, get motivated to fight these fights.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No, I agree, man.
So on that point, Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on Pause the Punch.
Catch you in the next episode.